Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. You know how much we love getting into the nitty-gritty of making tech work better for everybody, and today, well, we're zeroing in on something super specific.
Sounds intriguing.
It is. We're talking about those times when you just can't look at a screen.
Ah, yeah, like when you're driving or...
Exactly. Or cooking or working out. I mean, there are tons of situations where you need to use your devices, but, you know, staring at a screen just isn't an option.
Makes sense. And I bet it's especially tough for people who are visually impaired.
Oh, absolutely. And that's actually a big part of what got us thinking about this whole topic. We came across this fascinating research paper, and get ready for the title because it's a mouthful.
Hit me with it.
Okay, so it's called Spindex, Speech Index, Improves Auditory Menu Acceptance and Navigation Performance.
Spindex Speech Index. Okay, so it's about like a voice control, right?
Yeah,
But improving it somehow.
got it. See those giant menus on your phone with like a zillion options?
Oh, yeah, tell me about it. Trying to find anything using just voice commands can be a real pain.
It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. And this paper is all about making that whole experience way smoother.
I'm all ears. So how does this Spindex thing actually work?
Well, think about it this way. Imagine you're trying to find a specific contact in your phone's address book.
Okay, got it.
So instead of having to listen to your phone, slowly read out every single name.
Which can take forever.
Right. With Spindex, you'd first hear a little sound cue that's linked to the first letter of the name you're looking for.
So like if I was looking for someone named Sarah.
You might hear a specific chime or tone right before the voice actually says Sarah.
Well, that's kind of clever. It's like those tabs you see in a dictionary or a phone book.
You got it. He gives you a quick audio shortcut so you can jump to the right section without having to wade through the entire list.
I like it. So it's like giving your ears a little roadmap.
Exactly. And the researchers actually put this to the test.
Oh, really? How do they do that?
They had a bunch of undergrad students try to find specific names in a simulated phone book.
A simulated one.
Yeah, they basically created a digital version of a phone book and had people try to find names both with and without the Spindex cues.
Clever. So
Yeah.
did it actually make a difference?
Oh yeah, big time. The results were pretty clear. Spindex significantly sped up the search times, especially when they were dealing with really long lists.
That makes sense. Even if it just saves you a couple of seconds per name, it all adds up when you've got hundreds of contacts.
Right, but the researchers didn't just stop at measuring speed. They wanted to know how people actually felt about using Spindex.
Oh, that's important. A feature can be super efficient, but if it drives you crazy, nobody's going to use it.
Exactly. So they actually tested out a few different versions of Spindex.
Okay, like what?
Well, they had the basic Spindex, which was, pretty straightforward. Then they tried a quieter, attenuated version, which was designed to be a little less in your face.
Makes sense. I could see how a constant barrage of sounds might get annoying after a while.
And then they had a decreased version where the sound actually got quieter over time, and even a minimal version that only played at the start of each letter group, kind of like a chapter heading.
Wow, so they really explored all the options. So what did people think?
Well, get this, even though all types of Spindex actually did speed up the searches, users had some pretty strong preferences.
Oh, I bet. That's fascinating to me. Like, did they all agree on the best one?
Not quite. It turns out people actually found that minimal Spindex kind of unhelpful, even though it technically worked.
Huh, interesting. Maybe it was just too subtle, like it didn't provide enough guidance to be really useful.
That's a good point. And here's the really cool part. Both sighted and visually impaired users consistently said they preferred the quieter versions, like the attenuated and decreased Spindex.
Ah, so it seems like finding that sweet spot between helpful and not annoying is key.
You hit the nail on the head. It really highlights how important user feedback is when you're designing accessible technology.
Couldn't agree more. Can't just assume something's helpful. You've got to involve real users in the process.
Absolutely. And speaking of users, the researchers included some fantastic quotes from the participants in their paper.
Oh, I bet people had some strong opinions.
Oh yeah, they weren't shy about sharing their thoughts. Some of them were practically begging for Spindex to be added to their actual phones.
That's awesome. I mean, it really shows how much of a difference something like this could make.
Right. It's like all those times you're struggling to find a specific song in a massive playlist using just voice commands.
Ugh, don't even get me started on that.
Spindex could be a total game changer for situations like that.
Absolutely. And you know what this makes me realize?
What's that?
The potential applications of Spindex go way beyond just simple menus.
Ooh, Okay, I'm intrigued.
Mm.
Tell me more. Where else could this be useful?
Tons of places. Think about like any situation where you're dealing with a huge list of things and you can't look at a screen.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So we're talking like playlists, podcasts, email inboxes, even social media feeds could benefit from this. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's not even just about finding things faster, It's also about having more control over your tech.
I see what you mean. Like being able to manage things hands-free.
Yeah. Imagine like zipping through your emails, picking out the urgent ones, all without having to touch your phone.
Okay, that does sound pretty amazing. But I'm curious, did the researchers uncover any potential downsides to Spindex?
That's a great question. And it's really interesting when you go back and look at those user quotes we were talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah. What about them?
Well, remember how those visually impaired users actually preferred the basic Spindex, even though it was a bit louder and more prominent?
Yeah, that did stand out to me. It seemed like they were prioritizing like clarity and speed over the subtleness that the sighted users preferred.
Exactly. And that just goes to show that accessibility design isn't one size fits all.
Right. What works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly. So how do you balance those different needs? That's the challenge, right? Making something that truly works for everyone.
It seems like a pretty tall order, for sure. Yeah. So what did the researchers suggest?
Well, they pointed to customization as a key factor.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
Imagine being able to tweak the Spindex settings to fit your own preferences.
I like where you're going with this. So like some people might want a really subtle cue, while others might need something more noticeable to catch their attention.
Precisely. It's all about giving the user more control.
Okay, so I'm sold. Spindex sounds amazing. How do we make this a reality? I want it on my phone like yesterday.
Well, the good news is the researchers actually laid out how Spindex could be integrated into existing devices, and it's not as complicated as you might think.
That's encouraging. But I imagine getting it widely adopted is a whole other challenge.
It definitely is. It's going to take collaboration between researchers, tech companies, developers, even users like us.
So it's a team effort. What can we do as users to push this forward? Besides, sharing this awesome deep dive with everyone we know.
Spreading the word is huge. But you can also actively demand Spindex-enabled devices. When you're shopping for a new phone or smart speaker, ask about accessibility features.
Right. Vote with your wallet.
Exactly. Leave reviews for apps that use Spindex well. Let companies know that this is something you value.
It's a good reminder that we actually have more power than we think when it comes to shaping the future of technology.
I completely agree. And this research is a perfect example of how innovation can come from unexpected places, and how these seemingly small changes can make a huge impact on people's lives.
Speaking of impact, this whole deep dive has really opened my eyes to the potential of auditory interfaces.
It's like we've been so focused on the visual side of things that we've totally neglected the power of sound.
It's true. And sound can convey so much information, emotion, even spatial awareness.
Absolutely. Think about how immersive video games and movies can be with surround sound. It's like you're right there in the action.
Totally. And that same idea could be used to make everyday tech more intuitive and fun to use.
Exactly. Imagine a navigation app that uses 3D audio cues to guide you through a city.
Ooh, that would be so cool. Or how about a fitness tracker that gives you personalized feedback through sound?
I love it. Or even a language learning app that helps you perfect your pronunciation by giving you real-time audio feedback. The possibilities are pretty much endless.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. But are we talking like sci-fi future here, or is this stuff actually happening?
It's really exciting. We're already seeing glimpses of this future popping up.
Really? Like what?
Well, there are already smart home devices that use little sonic cues to tell you things like when your laundry is done.
Oh yeah, that's way better than a loud, annoying buzzer going off.
Right. It's all about designing things thoughtfully, using sound in a way that feels natural and intuitive.
So it's not just about slapping any old sound onto a product. It's got to be the right sounds used in the right way.
Exactly. And that's where collaboration is so important, between researchers, designers, even musicians. We need to combine scientific understanding with that artistic touch to create truly effective auditory interfaces.
So it's like composing a symphony for the digital world.
I love that. And it's not as crazy as it sounds. There's a whole field of study called sonic interaction design dedicated to this very thing.
Wow. It sounds like an awesome time to be working in that field. What advice would you give to someone who's interested in exploring the world of auditory interfaces?
I'd say be curious, be creative, don't be afraid to experiment. Pay attention to the sounds around you and how they make you feel.
That's great advice. And most importantly, involve users in the design process right from the start.
Couldn't agree more.
I'm with you on that. It's like we've been so stuck on screens that we forgot about, our other senses.
Exactly. We have all these amazing capabilities and we're not even using them.
Yeah. I'm thinking about, surround sound in movies and games.
Yeah.
It's so immersive. It's like you're really there.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that same principle could be used to make like everyday tech more intuitive and fun.
Okay, I like where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So like what kind of stuff are we talking about?
Well, imagine like a navigation app that uses 3D audio cues to guide you through a city.
Whoa, that would be so cool. Or a fitness tracker that like gives you personalized feedback through sound.
Exactly. It's about using sound to enhance the experience, not just beeping at you with notifications.
Right, so it's more than just functional.
Mm.
It's about making tech more engaging and enjoyable.
Exactly. And, we're already starting to see some of this happen.
Oh, really? Like what? Give me examples.
There are some smart home devices out there that use these subtle sonic cues to indicate different states, like a gentle chime when your laundry's done.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those. Way
But-
better than some blaring alarm waking up the whole house.
All right. It's about designing things thoughtfully, using sound in a way that complements our natural instincts.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do we get from, these cool little examples to like a full-blown sonic revolution?
Well, the real challenge lies in understanding how we as humans perceive and process sound.
So it's not just about like throwing random sounds at a problem.
Yeah.
It's got to be the right sounds used in the right way.
Exactly. That's where collaboration comes in, bringing together researchers, designers, even musicians.
Musicians. Okay, now that's interesting.
Think about it. We need people who understand the emotional and psychological impact of sound.
Oh yeah, to create these like soundscapes that actually enhance our experience with tech.
Exactly. It's like composing music for the digital world.
That's such a cool concept. So is this like a whole new field then?
It pretty much is. There's this whole area called sonic interaction design dedicated to exploring the potential of sound in technology.
Wow. So for someone listening to this who's like, I want to get involved in that, what advice would you give them?
I'd say be curious. Be creative. Don't be afraid to experiment. Pay attention to the sounds around you and how they make you feel. And most importantly, get out there and talk to people.
Talk to people.
Yeah. Find out what their needs are, what frustrates them, what excites them.
Because at the end of the day, it's all about making tech work better for everyone, right?
Exactly. And that's something we should all be passionate about.
Couldn't agree more. Well, this has been an absolutely fascinating deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much about the power of sound and its potential to like totally transform how we interact with technology.
Me too. And I hope you, our listeners, are feeling inspired too. Who knows, maybe you'll be the one to invent the next Spindex or something even more amazing.
So as we wrap up today, let's all take a moment to just listen up. Listen to the world around us. Listen to the potential of sound and listen to each other. Because that's how we create a future where tech is accessible, intuitive, and even delightful for everyone.
Beautifully said. Thanks for joining us on this sonic adventure.